Hello and welcome. My name is David Beskov. I work as an HR strategist at Uppsala University, tasked with developing our managers and management. And today I'm going to talk a bit about conflicts. And I would like to start with some general reflections on conflicts. First out, wherever we have people, there is a potential for conflict, which makes conflicts a very natural thing and something that we as managers and leaders have to be aware of and prepared for. This means that an absence of conflicts is not necessarily a good sign. It might mean that we do not have an open enough communication environment for people to raise their issues, to disagree with each other openly, and so on. So we might have to be on the lookout for frustrated co-workers if we have a conflict-free work environment. Also, in our work life, we have less opportunities to freely choose who we meet, who we cooperate with, and work for. That is also a reason for managers and leaders in a workplace to be aware of conflicts as a phenomenon and people's frustrations in particular. Also, not all conflicts are bad. Conflicts that are handled constructively can lead to positive change and development in the workplace. But unmanaged conflicts are a risk factor for illness, for lowered productivity, lowered creativity, and workplace bullying. When talking about workplace conflicts, we might be helped by a clear definition. And this one is from Thomas Jordan, a German scientist working in Sweden. A conflict can be defined as something that arises when one or more people have a need that they are unwilling or unable to let go of, in which they perceive that someone else is blocking them from having fulfilled or satisfied. When this blocking of that important need remains, it creates frustration. And that drives at least one of the parties of the conflict to act differently than they would otherwise do towards the other. So we have a need that is blocked, which creates frustration, which creates other actions or a different way of acting. A very usual start to a conflict is a misunderstanding that is then reinforced by subsequent mutual interactions between the conflict parties. So usually or often, a conflict is started with a misunderstanding, which can be cleared out if the conflict hasn't escalated too far. Usual reasons for conflicts, and these I would say from my experience and that of my colleagues are usual reasons for conflicts in any workplace, but I would say they're reoccurring as well in the academic setting at the university. So one reason for conflict might be allocation of resources or benefits. Another might be issues of positions and roles. Who gets this tenureship or who gets this professor seat or so on. Structural issues, for example, organizational issues, reorganization processes might often create different kinds of conflicts. And behavioral issues, how we behave towards each other, might be how we communicate, what we do towards each other. And issues of conviction and values, which might be a conviction of academic freedom, perhaps, which can be interpreted in a lot of different ways and might cause a conflict when my need for academic freedom is perceived to be blocked by someone, perhaps a manager. I mentioned conflict escalation, and this is a definition by a researcher named Glassel. We start out with a factual issue, a conflict of interest, that arise because differences of opinion concerning a limited issue. And usually this ends when an agreement is reached. If it's not handled, it can escalate and then becomes a relationship or personal conflict. And in this conflict phase, the parties are frustrated over each other's behavioral patterns, which usually creates negative expectations of the other one, as well as information filtering, where we do not see something that would cast a beneficial light on the other, but we do see everything that we can interpret as negative about the other. It can also lead to labeling. You are such a this, or you are such a that, and grouping on the different conflict sides so that I get allies with me in this conflict, and the other one gets allies as well. And once we've reached this phase, it doesn't necessarily end when an agreement on the factual issue is reached, because now we have this information filtering and labeling and so on going on. So it has transformed into something that's not as easily resolved. And if this goes on, perhaps for a longer time, it might escalate into the third conflict phase of Glassell's definition, which is the winning or destroying phase. This is the conflict phase where at least one of the parties wants to defeat or get rid of the other party, sometimes without any concern for one's own well-being, together down into the abyss. And conflict resolution in this phase is very difficult. So there are some clear benefits from handling conflicts early on. First out, naturally, avoiding conflict escalation. Conflict escalations make the conflict harder to handle, and also takes up a lot of time and energy from the involved parties. If we can handle conflicts early on, there's usually the benefit of relationship development between the two parties, and also if the manager or leader has had a hand in the constructive conflict management, there is an improved relationship between the manager, the leader, and the co-workers. This can be seen in improved openness, improved trust, since we have put our cards on the table and learned that we can handle conflicts between each other. So this is really beneficial for the co-workers and for the leader. It's also an integral part of any group development that the group learns how to handle disagreements, how to handle factual issues in a constructive way. So that's a way to learn how to cooperate in a team or a group. It's also beneficial for psychological safety, the feeling that I can go to work and be myself, contribute, be open without the risks of conflicts or bullying. It's also potentially beneficial for creativity and innovation. When we can openly disagree with each other, it's easier to question the status quo, to come up with new ideas about how we should do things, and so on, which is something that helps creativity and innovation along, of course. And if we are able to handle conflicts and handle the fact that we are in disagreement about something, it's really beneficial for quality improvement and quality assurance, because then we can say, I believe we can do this better. I believe we haven't done this correctly. I believe that we need to correct this, and so on and so on. If we can do that, if we can be open about quality issues in our mutual work, in each other's work and performance, without the fear of chronic conflicts, it really helps the quality improvement and assurance processes. So these are a few of the benefits from handling conflicts early. I hope this has been useful to you, and I hope to see you in the future. Thank you.